In this video, we're going to be talking about moving averages and not using them in the traditional sense that most people use them to try and buy, short them, and all of that. But we're going to instead use them as magnets. So we'll go through what the moving average is and then how to use them and how we use them to trade every single day. So, firstly, this is a moving average. What this line here is a 50 SMA. Now what 50 SMA is a smooth moving average, and what it means is the last 50 candles are created in an average, and that is what this value is. Now you're thinking, okay, the last 50 candles, that doesn't average anywhere near here. That's because this is from a daily time frame. So if we go on to a daily chart, there is quite a lot on this chart, so kind of ignore that, but what you'll see is this line here is the average price of the last 50 candles. So again, you go to the last 50 candles, that's our average price. That was all a moving averages. The number is the average. So if you're using a 9 SMA, it means an average of the last 9 candles, and if you're using a 200, then it's an average of the last 200 candles. And again, that's going to be whatever time frame you're on. If you're on a 1 minute, a 200 SMA or an EMA is going to be the last 200 candles averaged. Now, when we're using this SMA, this is a 50 SMA on a daily time frame. So again, that's on this time frame here because we're on a daily time frame. However, if we zoom in and we go into a 1 minute, you can see this has not changed. And that's just the way it's coded on Thinkorswim. You can either get an intraday one. So if we put a simple moving average on and we throw on 50, and again, that's going to be this cyan blue, what you'll see is the 50 from today is kind of where price is now. However, this one is static, and that's because, again, it's a daily time frame. So that's why it's called a daily SMA. And we've got a 200, 150 on this chart. Now, 50 is, again, this color here, which is the one we're looking at. So I'm going to show you exactly how we use these SMAs. So that kind of explains what they are. And I'm going to go through how we use them to trade. So I'm not someone who really likes to trade off of them. So I don't really trade short off them. I don't trade long because of them. However, I do use them as targets for a day. For example, today we're trading between these NASDAQ and the QQQs. So again, the QQQs is the NASDAQ ETF. So if we put these charts side by side, I'm going to show you exactly how we use these today. And I'm going to show you the exact trade plan because we posted it before it even happened. So QQQs open today, and again, QQQs is the ETF of NASDAQ. So NASDAQ futures over here, ENQs, and this is the ETF of this. So they trade very similar, but there will be slight differences in especially the overnight trading, because ETFs tend to only trade market hours, again, kind of that 9:30 to 4 p.m., whereas futures are a bit longer, near enough 24/7. Or 24/5. So what you can see with the QQQs is we opened at this range here, and what we wanted to see is, or what we know is, we had the moving average at 473.60 and we opened up at 475. So that's a move of 1.5 points for QQQs to get down to that moving average. Now the way you use these magnets is it likely to make this move off no catalyst? And 1.5 points for QQQs, it can quite easily do that with no sort of catalyst. That is just normal pricing move within QQQs for the day. So we open here, we have a magnet here. Is it going to get there without a catalyst? Yes. So then that is our target for the day. Now, if it's a much bigger move, say this was 5 points away, but we have some sort of news coming out today, for example, FOMC, and that's still going to be our magnet level because there is a reason for it to kind of get down to that level. If there's no news and it's 5 points away, then you're probably not going to trade towards it because, again, it's less likely to come and able to hit that in one day because that's over 1% move on NASDAQ. So it is quite hard for that to do that sort of move off no sort of catalyst. So again, you look at the move it requires, and again, what you can even do is go to the opening candle, go down to where your magnet is, look at the percentage move, 0.32%. That is definitely a move you can do with no catalyst. So knowing that, we have a magnet to the downside. So again, we call it a magnet because we expect price to be pulled towards that level. So in this case, you've got the opening drive came down to here, you just shied the level. So it moved away, but it didn't matter. We were still short bias because now we expect it to be able to come down and magnet to this level, which we got exactly here. Now, what happens after you hit this magnet? We start to skyrocket. Now, this doesn't always happen. We need a reason for it to bounce. In this case, we had a reason for QQQs, so the NASDAQ ETF to come down to this level. We had a magnet. Now, why did we think it would be long bias off here? And that's because now we go over to the NASDAQ, the futures, the NQ futures. And what you can see is, again, we opened here like we did on the ETF. We had that opening move to the downside, which is that. We come back to VWAP, so fair value on the day. And then we do another drive down, again, coming into our magnet for the day on QQQs, which is, again, in that area here. Now, we've done that move. Now, is there anything else that we need to magnet to today? And if you go over to the NQ futures, what you can see is all the way up here, you have that same 50 SMA, but this time on the futures. And what kind of move is required? So again, if this is roughly where we're getting in, what kind of move is required? 0.6%. Again, can we do that sort of magnet without news? Yes, we can. And again, you go from the open. What is that move from the open? It's only a 0.27%. So we open here, we got our entry here because again, that's our magnet on the Qs, but now we do expect us to magnet to the other level, which is all the way up here. So trading a long bias move all the way up there is going to be our next magnet. That's basically our target for the day. And you can add multiple confluences with this to kind of say, is there reason for the price to go up? So 50 SMA alone would be a good enough magnet. However, what you can see is these two white lines. What are these? These were pre-market gaps created on the NQ. So we have a gap here, we have a gap here, we have a gap here. So we go across, you can see one got filled pre-market, we shied this level pre-market, and we sunk down. So what this normally tells you is, okay, you're going to try and push away from it and push to another magnet. So you had a gap to fill down here, so that would be our magnet, 50 SMA magnet. So we expect to move to the downside to get bought up, and now we have nothing really to look at the downside. So we only have upside projection. We have this gap to fill, and that 50 SMA to target. So we have these three areas to basically magnet towards. Now, are we saying this in hindsight? No. So come over here. You can see 10 a.m. market time. You can see exactly when these screenshots were taken. Price was here. So again, if we go back onto the chart, price was roughly here when we were saying this. So 10 a.m. price was here. As we made this analysis that we just went through, price was here, and we predicted the downward move to here, and then the pop up to here. So again, we'll go through the Discord. So what are we looking at? That is our take profit. So again, the NASDAQ, what we're talking about, but only after this hits. And what's that? That's the QQQ magnet. So again, that was it. Again, in simple terms, we also broke it down even more simply. You're kind of coming into this range. That's your entry. And again, we kind of marked it out on the futures in case you only trade futures, you only trade ETFs. That's roughly our entry range. And then where is our TP? So our take profit is, again, the top of this range, which is these three magnets, which again, if we go back to the chart, did these hit? Yes, they did. That was our trade plan. And again, you can see we did kind of just post in here. So entry has hit. So nice entry. And then now I haven't actually posted it in the Discord, but obviously all the targets have now hit. So that is how we use the moving averages as magnets. Again, people use moving averages in all these different ways. Again, indicators can be used in different ways. So it's all about finding out how you personally like to use them. I was never a fan of really trading off of them, but I do like using them as magnets because I have just seen that they are quite efficient to be able to target and kind of give you a sort of bias on the day. And especially if you're trading individual stocks, it can be a bit easier. But if you're trading between, for example, the S&P or the NASDAQ, you do really want to be looking between the ETFs and the futures because you do kind of get these differences, and these can really give you nice trade plans to trade to and from different magnets. So that is how we use moving averages, also how you can kind of set them up. But yeah, really the main trade plan we have on how to use magnets and moving averages.